Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into something really interesting from the 80s RC scene. It's a bit of a paradox involving Tamiya, the absolute masters of marketing back then. Okay, set the scene. 1987, the RC buggy boom is huge, and Tamiya, they dropped two 4WD buggies, almost at the same time, the Super Sabre and the Thundershot. And the big question, the one you asked us about, is this perception that Tamiya launched an inferior Super Sabre, but charged more for it than the technically better Thundershot. It sounds like they just shot themselves in the foot, sales-wise.
Right. And that's what we're digging into. Was it a mistake? Or was it actually, a really clever, calculated strategy? We want to unpack why they did it this way and what it tells us about Tamiya even now.
Okay, let's start with the Super Sabre. What was this thing, really? It was basically the last gasp of that old HotShot platform, wasn't it? Which was, let's be honest, getting a bit long in the tooth, technically.
Exactly. It was very much a parts bin special, pulling bits from the HotShot, the boomerang. Big draw, that super sharp, kind of aggressive Lexan body. Looked amazing, very futuristic. But yeah, it was really a way to maximize the value from tooling they already had. A stylistic thing, mostly.
But under that cool body. Problems.
All the classic hotshot issues. The drivetrain wasn't super efficient. The suspension geometry was, well, compromised. And that famous hotshot bump steer. It was definitely there. Where, hitting a bump makes the wheels turn on their own. Yeah. Wild. It was tough. Durable, yeah. But handling and efficiency, not its strong suit compared to newer stuff.
Okay, so that's the Super Sabre. Then, boom, almost alongside it comes the Thundershot. This is the new kid on the block.
Totally new, clean sheet design, ground up. Big difference. It had a much more efficient drivetrain. The chassis was modular, easier to build, easier to maintain, big steps forward, and the suspension and steering, way better. They finally fixed that crazy bump steer issue.
Ah, so a proper upgrade then. Any downsides to the Thundershot?
Well, it did have one infamous weak spot. The front suspension mount, the A5 part, notoriously fragile. Ask any owner. But big picture, that Thundershot chassis, it became the foundation. Tamiya used it for a whole bunch of later entry-level 4WDs. It was really important.
So, okay, Thundershot is clearly the better performer, the future platform. Why launch them together? Why not just lead with the Thundershot? It seems weird.
Yeah, it does seem weird on the surface. But you got to remember, Tamiya's goal in '87, they weren't really fighting for hardcore race wins against, like, the Schumacher CAT or the Kyosho Optima Mid. Not their main focus. They wanted the big market, the beginners, the casual bashers, volume.
Right, market dominance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they use this kind of brilliant two-pronged attack. First, platform transition. The Super Sabre uses up the old fully paid-for hotshot tooling, minimal investment, maximum final value. At the same time, they introduced the Thundershot, the new platform. It's less risky than just cutting over cold turkey.
Okay, hedging their bets a bit. And the second prong.
Segment targeting. The Super Sabre, with that wild look, it appealed to maybe the die-hard Tamiya fans, people who just loved the aesthetic. While the Thundershot went for the slightly more performance-aware beginner, someone wanting that, technically better chassis right away.
Okay, that makes strategic sense. But what about this price thing, the core paradox?
Right.
Was the Super Sabre really more expensive?
This is where perception gets fuzzy. We looked at historical pricing from back then. The Super Sabre listed at $141.95. The Thundershot, $138.95.
It's like that's it. $3.
$3. Commercially, basically nothing. It wasn't a huge premium for the inferior car. It was more like a tiny, tiny nudge. If price was your only factor, maybe you lean Thundershot, but it wasn't this massive barrier people sometimes remember.
Wow. So the whole inferior car, higher price narrative is kind of overblown.
Yeah, the real story is more nuanced. But fast forward to today, things get really interesting.
The legacy, right. It's completely flipped.
Totally flipped. The Thundershot, because it was a good, solid platform, got re-released a couple of times. 2005, then again just recently in 2022. Kept it available. The Super Sabre, though, it vanished for 36 years. Nothing. Then finally in 2023, they re-released it. And that huge gap, it built this massive mystique, this cult classic status. People wanted it because it was rare and looked unique.
And that leads to what you called the great price inversion.
Exactly. Today, you can find a re-release Thundershot kit for what? Maybe $100 to $160, somewhere in that range. Pretty affordable. The re-release Super Sabre, you're looking at around $200, often a bit more, consistently higher.
So the car that sold poorly back then, partly because the Thundershot was right there,
is now the more valuable collector's item, precisely because it sold poorly and became rare. It's pure supply, demand, and nostalgia. The original performance barely matters now.
So looking back, this whole episode, it wasn't a Tamiya blunder at all.
Not even close. It was, I mean, pretty sophisticated business. They managed a platform transition, targeted different buyers, and ultimately, even the less successful product found its own kind of value.
It really shows how the story around a product, the rarity, the community passion,
Hmm.
that can end up being way more powerful, way more valuable in the long run than just the original specs or how many units they shipped in 1987. It's a story that's still playing out, really.